Jesus drove a car, this would be his choice. The Mona Lisa of the car world. Priceless. This is a 2002 Porsche 911 Carrera, and it's a very special car. This is not even a car, this is an experience in itself. The people you meet, the way it makes you feel, everything else that's tied to it is good times. Smiles per gallon all the time. So let's get into the video. Let me show you guys why this car is so special. Let's do it. Since all the weight is in the rear, because the motor and all that is in the rear of the car, it's the most unique steering feel I've ever experienced in a car. The level of supercars, on the level of Lamborghinis, Ferraris. This is a 2002, so this is a 996.2. So you get the nicer headlight, the nicer corner markers. You get a few little touches that are facelifted from the previous 996.1. These 911s get really nice 18-inch wheels. These wheels are surprisingly light. Drilled rotors. You get nice 4-piston brakes. They stop the car pretty well. It's a pretty light car. I'll put the weight of the car up here. Makes you feel like $1 million. For 20 grand, I don't think you can get anything that looks better than this. In my opinion, this is the Mona Lisa of the car world. This car never gets old, it's a classic. The purpose of this wing is to reduce lift at high speeds. And this wing in the US automatically goes up at 75 miles an hour, goes down at 35 miles an hour. So it helps to let air into the engine to cool it down, and it helps reduce lift above 75 miles an hour. Let me show you guys the interior. You get these really nice storage pockets here. It's nice because they can seal everything. Xenon headlights with telescoping, steering angle sensing headlights, meaning when you turn the steering wheel, the headlights also turn and follow. This car has seen some sun, so it does have some cracking on the seats. It's not perfect, but you hop in this thing, you know it's always gonna start. These are pretty reliable cars. We'll talk about reliability in a sec, but you could pretty much drive this car every day. I've put about 5,000 miles in the last like 2 months. Let me show you guys the engine, and let me show you the hood. We'll pop both, the storage space there. You get a 3.6 6-cylinder engine. It's insanely difficult to work on. I'll talk about that in a second. I did the air oil separator, and you have to pretty much take off the intake plenums, a whole lot of stuff to get to the back. Another common issue is oil fill tube cracking, since it's made out of plastic and it's actually a part of the vacuum system. This is one of those vehicles where I'd recommend an engine out for most of the stuff. It's just easier to drop the subframe than take apart so much stuff to access everything in the back. It makes around 320 horsepower. This is a rear-wheel drive Carrera. I know you don't buy this for the gas mileage, but it's a good car on gas. Okay, let me show you guys the trunk space in the front. They call this a frunk. You get a spare wheel, you get some tools, some wheel locks. I have some detailing products, a little bit of a mess, editing laptop. You get the amps, a lot of the audio stuff. You get your battery here. It's under this cover. Your strut tower mounts, or the bolts are under these covers. Your windshield fluid is there. Your brake fluid is right here. Pretty basic stuff. For a tiny little car like this, it's enough space for a little grocery trip. It's not made for hauling stuff. Made for enjoyment. And quite honestly, the front end of the 996, these headlights grew on me. I still prefer like the 997 or the newer one, the ones where they just cut off right there. But I don't mind these lights as much as I used to, because I just look at the car overall as a piece of beauty. This is a piece of artwork. It's like the Mona Lisa. It's priceless, and a lot of the owners I've met of these cars can say the same exact thing. This little shield here is nice because when you're on the highway going pretty fast, you can put the windows up and wind isn't blowing in your neck, and it's a lot quieter. You can pick up a phone call. It's actually bearable. So this is a nice addition you could grab for a couple $100. Pretty basic interior. That's what I love about this car. You don't get a whole lot. It's very basic, but that's beautiful because there's so little to break. It's just the plastic, the old clips breaking mainly, but you get nice storage here. You get AC, heat, everything you really need. This one has a hardwired radar. I love this Passport. This is a 9500. This is just saves my life every day. This is just a simple, beautiful car that doesn't age. Alrighty guys, I'm gonna show you guys the wing in action. You could actually raise it or lower it manually. You can push it with a button. Double tapping it, and it'll raise fully to its up position. Let's do a startup, show you what it sounds like. This flat 6, 3.6 Porsche engine. This is the M96. There's a lot of little features I like. You can start this car with your left hand, and this is done from the racing background. It's so when drivers are running to their car, they could start their car with one hand and put it into gear with the other hand so they could have a faster start. It's really cool because anytime you're at a gas station, you can start this car just straight up outside of the car. You tank this car up right here. Since the motor is in the back, the tank is relocated in the front, and this is where you tank up the car. It's a little different than you're used to with most cars. Built a lot like Lamborghini or a Ferrari. Engine in the back, gas tank in the front. Good stopping power for a light little car like this. Beautiful, just stunning car. I never get tired of just looking at this. I could put this car in a glass box and stare at it forever. It's just stunning. They really do not lie when they say kills bugs fast. This car I did clean yesterday for this video, but this car, I don't know why, but out of every car I've had, it attracts the most bugs on the front bumper. I always have to power wash this bumper after a highway run because it's just covered in bugs. Their advertising does not lie. Let's take this car for a drive. Just stunning. I can't get enough just by looking at this car. It's beautiful. Let's take this thing for a drive. That's where this thing shines also. It's not only beautiful to look at, it's also amazing to drive. This car's not perfect. It's got a check engine, it's got an airbag. It's little stuff. It's not big stuff that affects anything. Very simple car, very basic car. They don't give you too much, but you don't need too much. That's the beauty of it. Nice convertible top. You don't need a whole lot to enjoy it. You just need the driving experience. You got nice shifting buttons. You got a M mode, which holds the gears back. It's a 5-speed. That's the only downside to this car. This is a 5-speed transmission. So on the highway, when you're going like, let's say 100 miles an hour, you're at about 3,500, 4,000 RPM. It would be nice if there was a 6th gear, which the 997 resolved, but the 996, I'm not sure if they came, maybe if the manual ones did. I'm not sure. Somebody can put that in the comments. That's manual mode. Drive, it's just regular automatic. It's going to shift for you. It's actually, I've grown to not hate it as much as I did. I used to think it's very slow, which the shift times on this are a little slow. You got to shift about a second or two ahead of time. But that's okay. That doesn't matter. This car's still okay. A stick shift version would resolve that. But that's besides the point. The automatic is still great for just a convertible cruiser, just to enjoy and drive quick. As you start it up, it gives you a power up. Okay, we're recording. Wipe down this little lens here. I'm trying out new camera angles. I'm trying out to spice things up for this channel. Since it doesn't have a whole lot of weight in the front, it just corners, unlike most of the cars I've ever driven. There's not a whole lot of cars that I've driven that gave me this sort of feeling while cornering. It's almost like a go-kart where the motor is sort of in the rear and it just, the steering feels light. It feels extremely light. Well, as far as reliability on these cars, the main big thing a lot of people talk about always is the IMS bearing. I don't have a sticker under the hood of mine that the IMS was done. I don't have any proof that the IMS was done. But when I talked to a couple Porsche enthusiasts, they've all pretty much said that at this mileage, 135,000 miles, if it was to already fail, it would have failed. I guess we're good on that one. It's not very expensive to do the IMS. And the only reason the IMS fails, it's an intermediate shaft bearing. IMS fails due to lack of lubrication, and there's some different fixes for it. There's a way to, like, you can drill a hole, have some oil squirt on the bearing, and that'll make it never fail again. There's a couple different solutions for the IMS, but that shouldn't stop you from owning this car. It's not as big of a deal as people make it out to be. An issue that I've had to deal with, a pretty big one, is the air oil separator in this car. It separates the venting of the oil from the intake manifold. When the air oil separator fails on one of these, a lot of oil depositing into your intake, so every time you start up the car, you get a lot of blue smoke because it's going to start burning that oil on initial startup. It's not a very pleasant thing to see come out of a very nice 911. And that was a big pain in the ass to fix. I did that myself on this car, and technically you're supposed to do an engine out for this because the air oil separator is all the way at the back of the engine. So in order to do this job without taking the motor, without dropping the motor or taking the motor out, you pretty much have to take all the intake plenums off. The whole intake system has to come off. You have to pretty much make a passageway for your hand to squeeze in behind the motor so you can barely see what you're doing to take it out. Honestly, if I had to do that job again, I would just drop the engine because it's not worth doing with the engine sitting inside of the body. It just makes it a bigger pain in the ass for yourself. One of the top motors failed if you have the convertible version. It's common on any older convertible, 20-year-old convertible. They're all the top motors are going to fail. That's normal. Belts, pulleys, alternator, starter, that's normal stuff, normal wear and tear stuff. Recently I changed the front shocks. I made a video on that. Go watch that. I'm going to make a video on changing the rear shocks as soon as those come in. I changed the stabilizer links in the front because they were fully destroyed. Just basic wear and tear stuff, but honestly, I've been driving this car every single day. I put about 5,000 miles on it. Within the last 2 months, 0 hiccups. Just little plastic stuff breaking always in these cars. Little plastic brittle clips and pieces that hold stuff in place, like the glove box latch, or I don't know, just like little trim pieces that keep falling off. But mechanically, this car is super sound. Besides the IMS, the air oil separator, a few different pulleys, there's not a whole lot that you have to really worry about in this car. Not only is the steering very unique to this car, and no other car really gives you that sort of feeling, it's the feeling you get driving this car. It makes you feel like $1 million every time. You feel like a champion. I don't know, it's relaxing. It's like therapy, meditation. It's just very pleasant driving this vehicle. And then when you add how quick it is, it's unbeatable. It's, in my opinion, the best. I think it's literally the best 20,000, which is like, that's like the entry barrier for this vehicle. It's the best 20 grand you could spend, just based off of how it makes you feel. It's not the fastest, it's very quick. It's not the fastest. Maybe a V6 Camry might be on par with you, but that's not what it's about. It's about the experience overall as a whole. BMW, a Mercedes, you're going to have a lot more issues in the long-term ownership of the car than this one. And the way this car holds its value tells you that. Because remember, anything that's good, highly desirable, highly sought after, it holds its value. That's why you got to pay for a 20-year-old Carrera at least 20 grand for a decent one. And then for 20 grand, you're getting like not exactly the one you want. You're getting a higher mileage. You're getting one that maybe has a ding or a dent to scratch. Good things hold their value, and that's a beautiful thing. This car you can own for 5 years, and more likely than not, you will actually make money when you go to sell it. but the thing is, you won't want to sell it. That's one of these cars where the more you drive it, the less you want to sell it, because it's so special and beautiful, and the feeling it gives you is priceless. There's almost, the only real reason that you really sell this car is if you're in a need for money, or if you value comfort, like if you've gotten so old that like you just can't get in and out of a low car every single day. But I don't see a reason why you would want to get rid of one of these. It makes no sense. Another thing that I do have to fix on this car, the transmission oil cooler, the O-ring started to leak, which is normal. It's rubber, it gets brittle. When rubber gets brittle, it shrinks, it gets hard, it cracks, and then it doesn't seal the same way anymore. So most of the stuff that will fail for you on this car won't be due to a bad design. It's mainly going to be due to age. It's wear and tear items that every car may fail on. So besides the IMS, the air oil separator, and a few little things like that, maintaining this car is a lot like maintaining a Toyota Corolla. Because it's just as simple as that. That's the real beauty of this vehicle. Simplicity. Simplicity wins, guys. Just priceless. Just priceless. Just priceless. You could take highway on-ramps, off-ramps, 100 miles an hour plus, no problem. Zero problems. This car just does everything well. Comfort is the opposite of sportiness. So if you want that sporty, fun feeling, you buy this. You want comfort? You buy an S-Class. You want reliability? You buy a Toyota. I've said it. You can't have them all in one. This car gives you two things. It gives you decent reliability and feeling like a badass, and that's priceless. Feeling like a badass in a car is priceless. No Toyota will give you that one. I'll guarantee you that. This car is extremely stable at high rates of speed. 100 miles an hour plus. This car, not a problem. Cornering, even just being, being stable. Stability is not an issue for this car. It's capable of going extremely fast and at an extremely stable rate. Like, this car doesn't feel sketchy at 150 or 100 miles per hour plus. It feels planted. And it's pretty much what you'd expect out of a German car. German cars are well built. Find yourself one of these before they get unattainably ridiculously expensive. Because if you see what happened to the air-cooled Porsches, people pretty much control the market on these cars. Anything that's highly sought after and highly liked and appreciates in value, people hold on to. People don't really want to let go of these things because they're special, and people know that. And these cars are only going to keep getting more expensive. You're going to keep paying more for the same car with more miles in worse condition. So the earlier you're able to get your hands on one of these, the better. It's sort of like E30 M3s 5-10 years ago. If you knew you would have, you should have, you could have, but you didn't. Same with this. You could have, should have, would have, but didn't. And I'm telling you now, you should. So do it. There's gonna be zero regrets, and you're gonna retain your money. That's one of the most beautiful things about this vehicle. You retain your money, or you'll most likely make money. It's kind of funny because you'll put miles, you'll drive it, you'll enjoy it, and you'll more likely than not, probability is higher, that you're gonna, when it comes time to sell this car, you're gonna get what you put into it or more. It's just from looking at the past, that's just how things go. Things of desirability, hold their value. And especially like something like this, it's definitely, it's a reliable car that's usable. It doesn't break much besides for the IMS bearing, the air oil separator, some of like the pulleys and a belt to brake. Anybody looking to buy a Porsche, to get into one, this is a perfect starter Porsche to get into, to get the grasp of it, to enjoy it. And then eventually from this you could always upgrade on, but you'll fall in love with this. I can promise you that. You'll fall in love with the experience. Even with the glove box ledge falling off sometimes, you won't even mind it. You'll be okay with it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one.